need to do something about it, and I'm completely with that. But the only thing I would like to point out is that not everybody is the same. I would say that some people at that time that studied there, they stay there. Some others, after we achieved our goals, we left. And that's all I wanted to say. I don't want to go into further details. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for sharing that with us. Agent.
Hi, thanks for having me here. I wanted to respond to a few things I heard that were shared. One of the points someone made was that it was suggested there was something wrong with using old things that have been on the books for hundreds of years even to enforce and, I guess achieve what they see as political ends or ideological ends, or dictatorial powers, I think is what one of the terms that was used. I think that's, it's a fair angle, a way to look at it. I think what that brings up for me is, okay, well, in the last 100 plus years, you went from when the country was founded, people could handwrite all the laws that were passed. It was a much smaller, much more efficient form of government, and certainly the legislation as well was comprehensible by a single human being, could read it, could write it. And yet, in the last 250 years, we have this neoliberal, expanding bureaucracy, expanding confusopoly, monopolized institute. How many hundreds of, it was like 900 departments or something for the government. Point is, we have all this stuff, and the laws are most of them don't come with an expiration date, right? If you're upset about this one, really you're just upset that he's doing something politically you don't like, and you're trying to claim it's wrong to use a multi-hundred-year-old law that survived this long. Well, you should ask yourself, maybe we can work back from today. How many other bills, how many other regulations should we actually be sunsetting, cleaning up, expiring, garbage collecting, to use a technical computer science term? That would be kind of my argument from that. It's like, you can't just cherry pick because you don't like this one thing. As far as these guys sent to El Salvador, I think some people have pointed out, like, you don't have that many rights. Everyone's here. It's a privilege to be an immigrant. I myself am an immigrant. I immigrated to Canada in the early 2010s and went all the way through the legal process, from being a tourist to then applying for a work visa, to applying for a permanent residence, to applying for citizenship. And I think that actually, I used to be an open borders, let everyone in kind of person, and that actually really hardened me to having basically zero tolerance for anyone who would violate the law, who would disrespect their country so much that they're entering as to think they were entitled enough to flout the laws, to not go by the system. However inefficient, however unfair, however whatever that system might appear on the surface. If you don't actually want to be part of, a law-abiding, full, participating member of the system who reinforces that system and is pro-social, well, no, you don't deserve to be there. And I don't know if all of them deserve to be in El Salvador prison. Certainly the violent criminals, I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of mercy for them. And if you do, well, you should go to El Salvador and just advocate for all the murdering gang criminals there. As far as due process and everything, and people's fear that, normal Americans are going to be picked up and sent to El Salvador prison. I would love that to happen to me, to be honest. Please pick me up, please ICE raid me and send me into the prison, because by the time you find out that I my rights were violated and all this and all the pain and suffering and all the trauma and everything. I think, you know, no one in my family will ever have to work again for like many generations to come. So please, please, please do that. Thank you very much.
I don't think all that money can compensate for what you will go through if you're there for any length of time. But I get your point. Double, and then Malik gets the last word. Oh no, Steve after Malik. Double.
Hi, thanks, Carrie. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, I really appreciate what the last speaker agent had to say. I agree with everything he said.
Well, in that case, why don't we team the two of you up and you can become a double agent?
That's it. That's it. So, well, thank you. I don't want to take up too much time on your stage, but yeah, that last one, the guy especially, he really knew. So.
Thank you. Double, Malik and Steve.
Okay, so first let's start with the fact that Trump literally said that he wants to do this to American citizens. They want to ship so-called American criminals to El Salvador and Guantanamo. Google it. He said it. So the idea is not that, oh, we have to defend the criminals. The idea is that when authoritarians want to seize power, they pick unpopular minorities and they label whole groups, whole swaths of people with terrible words. And the point of due process is to find out, well, are those words true? So the Japanese internment was brought up earlier. In some cases, interned Japanese had maybe 5-10 days notice. And particularly in the West Coast, a lot of these Japanese folks were farmers. And their farms were actually more successful. They were doing better at farming with their particular agricultural practices than many of the American farmers. So a lot of these interned people had their farms and businesses stolen due to forced relocation. They were forced to sell for pennies on the dollar, or maybe just abandon and then have them taken over. So not only was their property, their businesses, obviously their lives taken, but it was never given back. The estimates now are the property income may have been as high as $4 billion in today's money. So the notion that, you know, we made some mistakes during the Japanese internment, it was a crazy time, we genuinely believed there was a threat that had to be taken care of, that might not always be the case. Even these people who are so fucking racist, they might not be just good-natured racists getting it wrong. There could be other motivations here, financial motivations. The point is we don't know. And that's why you have due process, so we can find out. So this idea of attributing only the worst motivations and character to anyone targeted by the government, and then attributing only the best intentions and character to the government doing the persecuting, no, I don't buy that.
So I took up your challenge, Malik, and I'm going to quote President Donald Trump, a posting on Truth Social. This is a verbatim quote. I look forward to watching the sick terrorist thugs get 20-year jail sentences for what they are doing to Elon Musk and Tesla. Perhaps they can serve them in the prisons of El Salvador, which had become so recently famous for such lovely conditions. Now, I have no idea whether that contract with the president of El Salvador refers only to illegal aliens deported by the United States, or whether it is an open-ended contract by which American citizens might be incarcerated there. That's something I think value of further research. Steve, you get the final word. And by the way, I know you've moved around, and I know you're now in West Virginia, but were you ever in North Carolina?
Actually, I spent 17 years there.
Boy, and that's amazing that a woman from another country picked up that accent. That's really pretty cool.
Yeah, I lived in the Sandhills of North Carolina for 17 years. But yeah, to wrap this up real quick, the due process angle, yeah, I'll concede that there should be more due process to this, Gary. That's probably correct. But the idea that we can have a law that's never been deemed unconstitutional, and with the provisions that I articulated on the stage, which was more than war or invasion, as I said, that when I read directly from the law, I think it's perfectly applicable to use this law. And if you look a little broadly for security and the national interest, the president in Article 2 of the Constitution holds extraordinary powers. Now, does that mean to every citizen in every circumstance? Of course it doesn't. But I think we need a final resolution to how this is all going to play out, where this can be more clearly dealt with in the future. I'll end it there.
And I want to say that I agree with you that the argument that the law is old, so it has no effect, and or ought to be discounted, and that you're making that's a bad argument, and somebody else earlier made the point that that's a bad argument. I would agree. I would say to anybody who makes such a suggestion, would they believe that the First Amendment or the Second Amendment do not apply in this country because of the age of those amendments? That's really not a very good argument. The proper argument, if that's a position one wants to take, ought to be that the law does not apply under this circumstance. Now, that's a fair argument that could be disputed, but it's a fair argument. But to say because of the age of the law, maybe it's because of my age, I'm opposed to ageism. I don't know. I don't think that's a very good argument at all. And I would recommend that people who make it find other arguments to use, other points to make other than that one. That's a horrible way of arguing against these deportations. There are far more credible reasons to do so.
And Gary, I just finish up with this. You know, ever since this discussion began, for a while I didn't take the time to actually go and read all the provisions of the law. And I think when we start talking about this, where we look at all the details and the implications of the details, it becomes relevant. Like Merle said one day, the facts of the case matter. And in this case, the details and the articulation in the law and the intent does matter.
Thank you, Steve. Folks trying to get on the stage too late. We're closing it out, but please click on the link above before I close out the room and join the chat on Facebook Messenger. It's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's very vibrant. I go to sleep and I wake up and there are always new comments, and I learn from what folks are posting every single day. We're here Monday through Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. New York time, so until 5 p.m. New York time on Monday. Everybody be safe. Have a great weekend. Out here, I think it's going to hit 75 or maybe even 80 degrees in the New York area. I am so looking forward to that. And by the way, 9:30, Sweet 16, go blue.
All right, everybody, this is John Kitover. I'm running for the 16th District, Congressional District against La Hood. Vote John. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. This is our first day of our campaign. Thanks for being here.
There's something fishy, like this room is too peaceful. This is like a setup.
We're getting ready to go out tonight. Everybody's getting ready.
I don't know, guys. I got people trolling my ass 24/7 out here.
Oh, what's up, Jacob?
Hey.
This is a
Free Palestine from Hamas.
Oh no, kick him out. He likes to record.
Free Palestine from Hamas. Oh, hey everybody. Welcome to the first day of my political campaign. Thanks for joining us. Boy, no, shalom. I don't mind if I do.